So hey guys, though I'm not quite wearing a Batman shirt today, it is Superman who's DC. I am going to tell you about my recent reaction of the recent episode of Gotham here on the Fox channel, and it's episode 3 of the series. It's season 1 still of Gotham. And in this episode, guys, basically Commissioner James Gordon, who's still a detective, as you know from the last 2 episodes, um, basically, as this detective, not only is he dealing with the Wayne Parent murder case still after 3 episodes, he's now dealing with a guy who's now known as Balloon Man. And we never really quite know throughout the episode who this character is, but it is quite clear that two possible chances of who this character might be is either the Mad Hatter or the Joker. Um, and if it's the Joker, obviously there was rumored that the guy was joking around in front of Jada Pinkett Smith's character. I think in the first episode was the Joker, but who knows? In later episodes, they might actually reveal who the Balloon Man actually is. So he's going around, he's tying up people to a balloon, and they float up into the sky with the weather balloon. And they're basically James Gordon's trying to track him down throughout this episode, while also still dealing with the Wayne Parent murder case. Also, Penguin has a pretty big role in this episode. Penguin's been a pretty big character so far, I would say, in the show in general. But in this episode, he's trying to get a job somewhere, make some money, kind of start over again because he really doesn't have any place to go to at this point. And so he manages to find a job in a kitchen, which he kind of forcefully makes his way into. And while there, he meets up with the Maroney family for the first time. And for those who don't remember, the Maroonies are kind of like the Falcones. Basically, there's the Falcones and there's the Maroonies within Gotham City, and they're both huge crime mob families, and they actually don't like each other. And so they're kind of, it's kind of like the Republican Party and the Democrat Party in republics. They're both made for the same reason. They're both political parties, but they're both very different parties, and that's kind of what the Maroonies and the Falcones are. Is they're both kind of the same thing, but they're different families and they're against each other. And Fish Maroney, who's Jada Pinkett Smith's character, is kind of in between. Though obviously she kind of is connected to the Falcones. You'll see throughout this episode and the previous episode that she kind of doesn't really like them too much. But basically, Penguin kind of tries to reinvent himself with the Maroonies, and we'll probably see more of that happen in later episodes. But we kind of got a brief start with that as far as, Penguin starting over within another mob family. So I really enjoyed this episode, you guys. It's not quite. I still think the pilot episode's still my favorite, but this has turned out to be a really great show. And episode 3, I think, really continues the greatness, even better than episode 2 did last week. And I was just really happy with the overall episode. So, for my positives and negatives of this episode, I thought the Penguin direction was pretty cool. I would say the Penguin in general is slowly becoming one of my favorite villains of the show so far. Just they're doing a lot with him, and they're doing some pretty interesting things with him, I would say. So, huge thumbs up for whoever's in charge of the Penguin writing in the show. It's just really cool to see kind of where this character started. Obviously a different angle and approach on this character. One of his parents is still alive, so kind of like Batman Returns, it's obviously pretty different still. Because by the time we saw him in Batman Returns, I think both of his parents were dead when we saw him as Danny DeVito's Penguin in that. So, but just really cool direction with the character, I felt. I like how the Maroonies are finally getting involved with the show because the first 2 episodes was more about the Falcones and about Fish Maroney. I don't even know if she's a Maroney, but basically Jada Pinkett Smith's character is kind of this huge mob boss herself as well. But I like how the Maroonies are actually getting involved now. And for those who also don't remember, the Maroonies were also in the Dark Knight before the Joker makes his infamous "and I thought my jokes were bad" joke. Basically, that was a Maroney gathering and his organized crime gang, basically. So, for those who don't know who the Maroonies are, that was kind of a good example as far as where we've seen them in Batman films before and things like that. I liked the suspense of the Balloon Man character. I like how there's just enough clues to make it the Joker, and there's just enough clues to make it the Mad Hatter. I like how if it is the Joker, that would make sense because we see him wearing a pig mask throughout the episode, so we really never quite know who this person is. Um, but if it is the Joker, that would make sense because for those who saw The Dark Knight, obviously there was all those clown masks that they were wearing in that robbery. And so it makes sense for obviously the Joker to wear a mask, for the beginning of this character as the Joker, because the first time we saw him in The Dark Knight, he was already wearing a mask, and we didn't get to see him in his clown makeup quite yet when the movie started. So, um, another thing I really liked about this episode, this has actually been going on for the past 3 episodes. It's no surprise because she's a very good actress. I've seen her in obviously tons of films, and her husband Will Smith is very good at acting as well. Jaden is good, but I think he needs some improvement, to be honest. And a lot of people I think would agree with me on that. But Jada Pinkett Smith's character is really cool in this show. I think she really pulls off this villainous character very well. I kind of like how she kind of views all these men that work for her as her boyfriend in a way, but they're not really her boyfriend. It's more like she's perfectly fine kissing them, and she kind of lightly rubs them, and treats them like she's really close to them and things like that. I really like how there's kind of this side of her you don't want to mess with, and I like how there's she kind of has this soft side that's also kind of dark at the same time. I just the way she's portraying this character I think is really neat. So huge thumbs up to Jada Pinkett Smith. She's doing a great job with her role in this show. And though I've kind of been bashing Alfred in this show a lot, I'm not quite warmed up to this new actor who's playing him because I love Michael Caine's portrayal of the character so much, and I also love Michael Goh's character from the first two Tim Burton Batman films a lot. But I like how we're seeing the mentor side of Alfred. I like how we're seeing him kind of teach Bruce Wayne some not in depth martial arts stuff, but a little bit of martial arts stuff at this point. And we're really seeing kind of how where Bruce Wayne, later when he becomes Batman, is going to use these skills to become Batman, basically. So I like how Alfred's kind of a part of that in the show so far, and because he was like that in the comics as well. For those who read the comics. For my negatives of this episode, I thought, the 3 episodes so far, and this could be this new director because the first 2 episodes were directed by Danny Cannon, who did the first Judge Dredd film. But we have a new director this time for this 3rd episode, and that might be a problem because one of my negatives of this episode was I thought some of the dialogue felt kind of wooden in this episode. It just kind of felt like they didn't spend a lot of time thinking about certain things in certain scenes. So as a result, though some of the dialogue with some of these characters really felt wooden compared to the first 2 episodes. Another negative I had about this episode is there was a ton of plot conveniences, specifically with Penguin being able to succeed and meet the Maroonies and things like that. Great episode overall. I'm just saying, as far as really conveniently making these characters succeed with certain things, I thought the episode was a little convenient in that sense. And I felt it was a little bit more convenient than what was shown in the first 2 episodes so far. So, but overall, I really like tonight's episode, you guys. Kind of like the pilot episode. I really can't wait to see what they're doing for episode 4 now because they're really making a pretty cool show here. So, can't wait to see where the Fox channel does next with this. So, hope to see you guys here next week for that episode review or reaction, I should say. And I hope, kind of like me, hopefully this episode 3 was pretty satisfying for you as well. So, I hope to see you here for the following week for the reaction of the next episode.